This is the Balanced Advisor Podcast with Dr. Travis Perry, helping financial advisors like you achieve balance in their lives.
Welcome to another episode of the Balanced Advisor Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Perry. Today, we're joined by Bill Cates. Bill is the author of Get More Referrals Now, Don't Keep Me a Secret, Beyond Referrals, and Radical Relevance, as well as the founder of the Cates Academy for Relationship Marketing and the host of Top Advisor Podcasts. For over 26 years, Bill has helped financial professionals move from incremental growth to exponential growth by communicating more compelling value and multiplying their best clients. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And in case anyone misheard you, it's Bill Cates, not Bill Gates. He's got a lot of money and probably some pretty good balance too, but I'll help you make a little more.
I don't know about that one.
Hard to know.
If you want to get him on the show, happy to talk to him. Yes, Bill, we're grateful to have you. And I know you're a excellent advisor to advisors. And I love having this voice on the show to give advisors other ideas and help and hints by giving back. So thank you. Tell us a little bit about how'd you get into this crazy industry?
Yeah. So the short version, well, slightly longer, is I was a drummer in a rock and roll band at one point. And I did a talent assessment at one point and I go, okay, how good are we here? And I realized I'd be playing Holiday Inns probably the rest of my life, or replaced by a disco machine. So I shifted, and eventually I got into the book publishing business. And I actually started two publishing companies. One I sold for a pretty good amount of money, which freed me up to figure out what was next. The other one pretty much covered my debt. I got out of that. And then I was looking for the next thing to do. And a buddy of mine said, you should be a professional speaker, trainer, consultant. You've been through a lot. You'd be good at this. And all right, I didn't really know much about that. And I slowly started hanging out with other folks. Never had thought I'd ever write books. My parents are probably rolling over in their ashes right now, thinking that their son wrote these books. But slowly, I realized that I love helping people. Well, I love learning and growing, and I love helping, I love sharing that with other folks so they can learn and grow too, but specifically around growing the business and meeting more people and that relationship marketing thing. And so that's when my first book, actually Unlimited Referrals, came out in 96. And pretty quickly after that, I started focusing on purely financial advisors, financial professionals of all kinds over the years. So really for, almost 30 years or whatever, I've been doing this thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you've been able to be inducted into the Professional Speakers Hall of Fame.
True.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And I love that, like speaking is one thing. I love to speak, but getting to the top of speakers is a feat. That's fantastic. So you're a good speaker. You're not just a speaker.
But I'll tell you something, and every time I saw someone else inducted before me, I go, well, of course they're getting it before I did, right? And then for several years at least, every time someone else got inducted after I got inducted, I'm going, well, how did I get in before them? So I was pretty humbled by the whole process, to be truthful about that. And it's just fun. And I'm actually in line to be the head of the Hall of Fame coming up in July. So it's kind of an honor to be recognized by your peers, to lead your peers for a while. It's a lot of fun.
Fantastic there, Bill. Let's talk about balance. You've got a lot going on. I mean, you've given to the industry for years. You really reached the pinnacle of what you wanted to be doing, and you're, looking back at trying to achieve your goals and achieve your balance. Mm-hmm. What would you say is your definition of balance?
Well, my definition of balance is, number one, not being overwhelmed in any particular area, right? So it's an equilibrium, I guess. Maybe that's a synonym for balance. I don't know, but But it's doing what you enjoy doing for the most part. I think I don't know if it's a pipe dream to think that you can only do what you always want to do and not get stuck doing other things, but trying to minimize that, I guess. And, the old adage, if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. I'm kind of that person. I like to create, I like to produce results. I start and I finish things. We know some people that can't get started, other people can't finish. I, for whatever reason, can do both. And, it's a blessing and a curse sometimes. And at this point in my career, I'm looking to scale back a little bit. I'm not going to say retire. I'm not going to say slow down. I don't know how to slow down per se, but just focus a little bit more on what I really, really want to do. So I don't know if that answers the question. But that's what comes from me.
Absolutely, it does. I think, equilibrium, I think, used to be the 90s version of balance. Like, hey, we've got to do everything the same. But, Bill, I think it's perfect to talk about it, because I think that's part of why people struggle, especially advisors struggle with balance, is they never, based on that definition, that's a very difficult definition to hit, right? So you're always going to feel like you got to be scaling back. But what you followed up and said after that was, maybe it's a pipe dream, but, it's doing what you like to do. That, my friend, that's balance. Because, you're not going to like everything, but if 90% of the time you like to write, you like to speak, you like to lead, if you're doing those things versus, a lot of the other, paperwork or detailed stuff that maybe doesn't really apply or, make a lot of money for your business, like that makes sense. And we call that your work sweet spot. So I 100% at work, if you're working in the most productive and fulfilling areas of your job, you're going to feel balanced, right?
Makes sense.
So let's talk about that as you're trying to scale back, as you're trying to, really streamline some processes, not retire, but really kind of, scale down a little bit. What have been maybe your biggest struggles in that process?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest struggle is developing the new habits of thinking and believing and doing. So, saying yes to certain things. If a project comes along that is intriguing to me, I'll just jump in. And so I have too many plates spinning. It takes a little too long to get each one done if I just focus a little bit more. So the willingness to maybe put something on the back burner for a while, I've gotten much better at that. And so that's part of it. And I get excited. One of the reasons I started my podcast, this happened actually during COVID. And all of a sudden I'm not traveling as much and I'm starting to coach a little bit more and still doing virtual presentations. So I was interviewing a few advisors for a program, and all of a sudden I realized that's what I love to do. I love to learn what people are doing. In some cases, it's already what I teach, and it's another example for me to provide to people to, validate and give them a teaching moment. Or they're doing something I hadn't thought of, but I put it through the filter of my brain, my eyes, and then I give it out to people, and they get excited about it. So that's why I started doing the podcast, because that's a sweet spot for me. And the problem is I didn't let go of something to replace it. Right. And I'm sure you teach this in some form. Sometimes you got to let go and that's what I haven't been good at.
Yeah. We talked about this in the pre-show, like you're a creator. You like to create.
I do.
You're naturally talented. Writing books for some people might just be like pulling teeth, right? Speaking in front of people is actually absolutely more feared than death itself for some people, right? So we know this. So the fact that you're a creator and you like to share, and podcasting comes along like, hey, I want to do this medium, makes perfect sense, especially at the time in which you started it. It makes perfect sense. Right. But you're exactly right. When we take on too much, because we like doing it, and you don't let go of something else, then really what we're saying is we're saying yes to everything and no to, nothing. And now you become that guy who's out of balance, spilling out all the plates. And I find this with advisors. Advisors really struggle because they've got marketing. Hey, they need to ask for referrals and use your approach to getting more business. They've got to, produce. They've got to be able to, take people through their process and have good customer service. Where they struggle is doing it all, right? They struggle with trying to just accomplish everything without delegation. What do you think? Is it for you? You've had teams, like we talked in the pre-show. You've had large teams. You now have a team that is not as big as it used to be.
Right.
Is it a delegation thing, or is it more of a control thing, or is it you just love doing what you're doing, so you really have a hard time giving up something else?
Yeah, it's got to be a little all of the above. Although I've gotten much better at delegating, and the problem for me was because I didn't delegate particularly well, and maybe micromanaged a little bit too much. My staff got used to that, and when I shifted and decided, no, that's your job now. You've got it. Take it. Do whatever. They weren't used to that at first, and so I had to get them used to the new bill of letting them just run with something. Sometimes I micromanage people because I hired the wrong people, right? So that's sometimes the issue. I think for me, it really was, it's a little combo. It's a little bit of being in control, liking it done a certain way, wanting to get a certain result. That's part of it, and mostly just taking on too many, giving energy to too many ideas. That's my biggest challenge, and so my staff is always asking me priorities, right? What is more important? And so prioritization is obviously critical, and then being able to let go, at least for a while, of the lower priority items. I think there's another issue here, though, Travis. Perhaps you see this. Is especially for successful advisors, it's like, how much is enough, and how much do I need to keep growing, and how much do I need to prove to some parent that isn't around anymore that I can be successful? All that psychological stuff that a lot of us fall prey to, right? Yeah. So that goes on for people, and being aware of that helps. It doesn't necessarily make it go away. It helps. Something I heard a long time ago really helped me, and still helps me, is that all the stuff that drives us, that makes us do things we probably shouldn't be doing anymore, it's like a tape that's playing. And it'll always play. You just got to turn the volume down. You say, no, I'm not going to indulge that part of me this time. And so that's helped me a lot.
Love it.
Perfect? No, but it's helped a lot.
You bring up two really good points. The first being prioritization. The sweet spot that we talk about in the book, Achieving Balance, if you can just do the top 5 or 6 most important things in your working day, you'll be 2 to 3 to 5 times more productive. Like, it's incredible. So it's letting go of those lower priority items. And you mentioned, micromanaging. But then you also said, hey, maybe it's some of this head trash, limiting blocks, belief systems, psychological barriers, whatever you want to call it. The base part of this is just fear, but it's subconscious fear. A limiting block is a subconscious fear that you might struggle with. Hey, you brought it up. An example of, trying to prove that you're successful, quote unquote, with air quotes, or you're proving yourself to your parents or to someone else, maybe a spouse or the industry itself. Those awards can be addicting, but how much is enough? And either way, it's a fear-based mentality of, I'm afraid to let go because someone might not do it as well. I'm afraid to let go because my client might not appreciate that, or whatever you're thinking.
Yep.
At the same time, those limiting beliefs of trying to prove yourself, maybe a fear of success or fear of failure, it stems from the same area of fear. For you, you said you've been able to manage this a little bit better each year, and you're not perfect at it. Welcome to the club. But what has helped you to manage these fears, or to remove them so that you can be successful?
Yeah. So one thing, just getting clear on what's important to me. And we know that clarity, it's probably, I don't know if it's ever a permanent thing. It's like we get clear, the brain loves it. We kind of know where to go next because we feel clear about it. And then things will start to get cloudy down the road. So it's kind of something we have to revisit from time to time, I think. Just like you got to clean a window from time to time. So that's part of it. And I have a group of guys, happens to be all guys, that I've been with for 30 years. And, we know each other well, very well. We could probably finish these other sentences, and, we can tell the jokes by number 27, number 13, and we know each other that well. And so we've done some of that work together, and we've worked on the priorities, and we've worked on the places we get stuck. And so, it's the first law, Newton's first law of motion. A body in motion tends to stay in motion. Body at rest tends to remain at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. So these guys, they're my outside force. They're the people that say, no or yes. I just wish sometimes I had someone following me around all the time, slapping my hand when I'm doing stuff I shouldn't be doing, right? But having people in your life that'll tell you the truth as they see it, who know you well enough, and you listen to them.
Yeah, accountability is crucial.
Yep.
To finishing. You're talking about how you like to start, but you're also good at finishing. So I couldn't agree with you more on this, that once you know what your priorities are, once you have them in order for work and outside of work. I know you've been accomplished outside of work. You've done some great things we'll talk about in a second, but once you have those personal boundaries of doing fun, amazing things outside of work, you're not just thrilled by going to work. And this is what I find with a lot of advisors is they say, man, I really love my work. I love my clients. I'm like, yeah, but do you love your family? Do you have time with them? Do you show them the kind of, relationship you have at work? Do you serve them? And a lot of times is, I know I should, but I struggle with that follow through. Man, if relationships at home aren't good, if, physical health is a struggle outside of work, and, you don't have any hobbies and things to look forward to, I understand why people get sucked into doing more and more work because it's fun. It's engaging. It's exciting. But you've done some things that have been, quite incredible. You're a little bit of a hiker. You've trekked through Himalayas, the Andes in Peru. Mm-hmm. You've lived on a houseboat in Kashmir, India. You've climbed Machu Picchu. You've reached the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. You've done a few things, so how is having these things outside of work that light you up? How does that help you create boundaries for work?
It's great. And for me, particularly, one of the ways I create a little bit of balance is I schedule things. I'll buy the ticket. I'll make the hotel reservation. I'll make the tea time with my buddies, whatever it is, stuff that I really almost can't get out of. And so I kind of force myself to do that. And I love going to places. The first couple of days are tough, but I love going to places where there's no cell service. When we were on Kilimanjaro, it was funny that we were 14,000 feet up. So we're just part of the way up. And the guy said, you can get cell service on top of that big rock there. So I didn't bring my phone, but my buddy did. And he left a message at home. But I like being separated from all of that. And I know some people say, how could you get in? And I don't like it the first couple of days, but then I love it. Right. And so I have to force myself into it. And I've run out of travel adventure buddies. I got to find a new adventure buddy so I can plan something. Although I am going bicycling in the glaciers and the volcanoes of Iceland this summer. So I'm looking forward to that with a buddy. But if I schedule it, I'll do it. And that's the key.
Yeah, I had a friend who's, and this isn't unique, but work hard, play hard. Yeah, be productive, have, an excellent time at work doing what you love doing, but then being open and willing to have these adventures or whatever it is, whatever lights you up. If it's living on a houseboat, if it's climbing a mountain, if it's playing pickleball with your friends, with your spouse or, hanging out with your family, do those things. they recharge you, they refresh you.
Yeah.
And I've found that to be true. So what great example of that, Bill. I appreciate you making the time to be on the podcast today. If you were to give a couple of pieces of advice, I mean, you've written several books, but if you were to tell advisors, hey, this is one way, something that's really helped me to have greater balance as you're growing your business or scaling your business, what would that be?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it, but I'll go into slightly more detail. And that is just having those people around you, that's quote unquote support, whatever that looks like. Accountability is just another word for positive support, and having those people. And I've got that. And if I run into a problem or an issue, I've got people I can talk to. I've seen that some people, they lose that. Maybe they have it growing up, and then sometimes, they get married and maybe they depend too much on their spouse for things that the spouse isn't equipped to give, and they don't have their buddies, and women don't have their girlfriends. And so that's a big part. I've always made sure I've kept that balance of relationships in my life. And I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things that has made a difference, of having those friendships, and not just superficial friendships, but really good ones. I got the guys that'll hold the rope. If I'm hanging at the edge of the cliff about to go over, these are the guys that are going to hang on that rope for me. And I know they will. And that's a great feeling to have.
Well, coming from a relationship expert, being able to see that, a lot of your work is around referrals. It's around, the team leadership aspect and connecting with people. Super important. So I really appreciate that. I know our listeners know that this is important, right? A lot of them are involved in masterminds or coaching or things that help them connect. And even my coaching over the years has gone from a lot of one-on-one to a lot of interaction through groups, not just because it's effective, but because it gives more accountability. And it allows for, answering to more than one or two people so that we can be working towards our best selves. Bill, thanks for being on the show. If people want to connect with you and learn more about you and how you help advisors to get more referrals and really have greater relevance, obviously they can get your book, Radical Relevance. That's what you're working on right now, to market that one. But where do they go to connect with you and get that?
Sure. Two quick links. My website, referralcoach.com. And then my podcast is topadvisorpodcast.com. I'm just loving the interviews I'm doing with successful folks. And I say, I'm interviewing top advisors for top advisors. And it's not all about busy. There's a couple interviews there of some folks who do take a lot of time out and have created that balance. So it's a mix of business ideas. So.
Love it. Great to connect with you, someone who's accomplished and, worth the time to listen to. Check out the Top Advisor podcast, guys, if you haven't, and gals out there that haven't picked that up. I know it's quickly picking up steam, and you've had a lot of great interaction with that. So Bill, congratulations on moving forward. What's the next? Can you give us any idea of what the next book is going to be about? What else are you working on? What's the next project?
I will. It's there's a term in theater and music and called a magnum opus, which means, your great work, defining work, if you will. So mine is going to be the Referral Bible, and it's going to be just everything that I've learned around how to build a business based on being more referable, being proactive, targeting niche markets, building the whole thing all in one place. And I'm actually very excited about it because it's just all my latest stuff. And so pretty soon when I finish a couple projects, I will put pen to paper and we'll get going on that.
Love it. Thanks for being on the show, Bill. Thanks everyone else for listening to our conjectures and fun interaction here. It's been great to learn from you about balance. And, if you need to continue working on your referral strength and helping your team to grow that relevance, check out Bill and his podcast. Thanks again.
Thank you.